Hello, I'm David DeCosmo. Welcome to ECTV Live. I'm joined by my co-host Rusty Fender, who was kind enough to sit in for me while I took a vacation at the shore. Thank you so much.
Hey, it was a
Rusty.
pleasure, and you look tan, rested, and ready.
I'm glad you said that. This is a farmer's tan.
Yeah, what a perfect time.
This is a farmer's tan.
Wait a minute, you went to South New Jersey, then you went to Knoebels, and now the vacation that never ends.
I love it.
Unbelievable.
But a farmer's tan is perfect for our subject
Correct.
today because
wristwatch.
This is National Farmers Market Week,
So
and joining us today is Clay LaCole from the Scranton Farmers Market.
Hi.
Clay, welcome.
Thank you.
And I appreciate
Glad to be
your
here.
coming over. The market, of course, opened a couple of weeks back, but this week marks National Farmers Market Week, when the U.S. Department of Agriculture recognized all of the farmers markets across the country. You know, I'm old enough to remember driving with my mom and dad and seeing the roadside stands. At one point, almost every farm had one of some sort, and they're still around, and nothing wrong with them. You know, they pick the corn and put it in the stand. But the farmers market concept, rather, is to have a place where you gather a number of farmers together.
Correct.
And most of the major communities have a farmers market day now, and Scranton is very unique. And you brought a photo along that kind of gives us a little idea of the history. So maybe you can tell us, as I show this, Clay, about a little bit about the history of the Scranton Farmers Market.
Well, the market got its origin. There was a Mifflin Street market that was formed by a group of farmers in probably the Abington, Newton, Ransom, Lackawanna County area. And this was in the 30s. And the problem was it was overcrowded. The people were having trouble getting there. So a group of farmers wanted to form their own cooperative farmers market.
But the photo here is from the 30s. And Rusty, can you see it? It looks so much like New York City.
It does. It looks like the district, especially in the sepia tone, the way it's done. It looks like when they were all out in the street vendors.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Great.
The picture we're looking at has it's probably it has to be from 1939, which is when the Cooperative Farmers Market came into existence, and this was located across from the old bus barns, I call them.
They had the trolley cars.
On the athletic field where Memorial Stadium is now, and these farmers were located there for 10 years. And then in 1949, they purchased 4 acres from the city, which was the old circus grounds, and that's off of Albright Avenue.
And I didn't realize that was the area where they used to set up the circus when it came to town in Scranton.
Yeah. And from there, since 1949, we've been in existence at this location.
Right. Now, you're a little different than some of the other farmers markets. Number one, you're not a one-day type of fair.
No, in season, usually from mid-July until the day before Thanksgiving. That's always our last day. We're open 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It originally was the Scranton Cooperative Farmers Night Market.
They actually had a nighttime session.
Right. The picture you saw are the hours at that time, I believe, was 5 till 10.
It's a long
So
day.
it was, especially in the fall, a night market. As the years progressed and things changed, the people were coming earlier and earlier, especially in probably the 70s and 80s when work schedules were changing and things were just changing. We would have people that wanted to come in at 4 or 3. So we've evolved now to hours from noon till 6, which, and our busiest time is around 12 o'clock till 2 o'clock.
And also in those days, women didn't work until the 1960s.
Right, and the whole family, I didn't bring another picture, but there was one where the gentlemen in their hats and ties with the wife and the kids and just huddled around at that open air market, the first one from 39 to 49. There were no tables. They turned bushel baskets upside down and their little pickup trucks, and But now when they built the new market on our own property.
Yeah, and they have a shot from that area as well.
A paved midway, and there's 41 open air stalls under roof with quite a large overhang. It's about 4 foot, so if it's a little showery or rainy, the people can get underneath there.
High tech. I remember I'm with Dave. My folks and I used to go up on Sunday and to Montalevitch's stand on the way to Lake Winola. Mm-hmm. And the way back in those days that folks used to not only make a living but raise a family, have a house, have a car,
and
selling a couple of bushels of sweet corn. Now you got to be like the president of ExxonMobil to be able to make it in this. It's amazing, a whole other era.
Now another difference in your farm market situation is that I guess technically speaking, you are a cooperative, so that all of the, or most all of the vendors who are at your market are actually co-owners of that market.
That's our claim to fame, that we're a true farmers cooperative market. We have a co-op, and all of the agricultural people in the market are members, and we pay ourselves rent to take care of the bills and the maintenance of the market. And very few farmers markets are owned by the farmers.
Is this only for Lackawanna County? Would you have to live in Lackawanna County to remember this?
No, it probably I can't say for sure. I know one of the members originally, a long time ago, from Luzerne County. It wasn't established for Lackawanna County. Its center was Scranton. Now our counties, we have most of our members from Lackawanna or Luzerne. We have 2 from Columbia. We have a new person that produces raw milk from Wayne County. There's one from Susquehanna. So we encompass the northeast region of the state, but we're centered in, of course, Scranton. And
I think at most other markets, and I think of Wilkes-Barre, Pittston, I believe they have one-day markets, and then your various vendors come in for that day. Now, some of those vendors may then go to other day markets elsewhere. That's sort of they
have a set day at that one town and then move on.
Circuit riders almost in a sense. But I can see the value of having the same vendors. You know they're there. You know what their products are. And that gives you a little advantage, I think, in knowing what you're looking for and where you're going to find it.
We establish a clientele. The people in this area are very loyal to our market because we produce our own. It's from the farm to the consumer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's no buying and selling of produce.
Right.
It's what I produce, I sell.
Now, what is the pardon me? What is the advantage to the consumer of going to your farmer's market as opposed, that same ear of corn that they're selling at your market, that farmer may also provide it to a grocery store somewhere.
Oh, correct.
So what is the advantage of the consumer coming to the market to get it?
Well, I would say that fresh picked, in the old market, when we went after the chores were done, we picked a lot of the load that morning and afternoon. Today, that's impossible with hours of noon. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday are very busy picking the things that will hold for a day.
Yep, right.
But in my mornings, and all the farmers that I know of, their mornings on market day is making sure the corn is picked that day. Things like broccoli or cauliflower. Something that you want real fresh.
Right, right.
If I picked corn the day before market and I didn't have a cooler system, it wouldn't look as fresh. So
sure.
Our claim to fame is when I put my corn on the table, the dew is still on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then by the same token, if that same farmer does take some corn and get it to a grocery store, it may sit on that grocery store shelf or the
produce rack.
The produce rack for 2-3 days before someone picks.
Plus the high overhead, transportation, shipping, and warehousing, refrigeration. That's higher toward the market side on a deal like that. So the consumer is going to pay for that.
The pricing is
close.
I would say a touch lower at our market. but because it's a valid fact that we provide a service of freshness, I wouldn't say we're half price to avoid that. But our people are very sensitive to having that freshness, and they appreciate it. We have people that are so happy, they say, when we open, and so sad when we close.
Sure.
You're a couple
But it's the
steps
season.
lower than the route to the supermarket, too.
Our
You're one step.
customer base comes from Lackawanna, Luzerne County. I have one customer that comes in from New York City once a week.
Wow.
She takes a drive with her sister and buys a quantity, and a lot of people from the Upper Valley, Carbondale, Waymart. But it's a good outlet for a small farmer, and we provide the service to the consumer.
Now, from a market point of view, generally not just the Scranton Farmers Cooperative Market, how is this season looking? You've had a season where we've had, Rusty, tremendous rain, right, this year?
Tremendous heat.
Isn't it a record?
So far in the Central Valley, it's almost 20 inches. It's 2 years worth of rain in the Central. So that encompassed Bradford, Tioga, moving down to Sullivan, Columbia, Lycoming, Montour, and those counties, Center, all that. It's
And
amazing.
that's got to affect the agriculture.
Got to.
Right. I was told last week by one of our older members, because we're all complaining about the weather this year, he said, well, that's what you chose to do. So,
Yeah, that's true.
You suffer through the
true.
dry and the wet. My father's philosophy was plant it all and get what you can and be happy with that, because that's part of the style. This year's been a struggle. April and May was cold and wet. We had 6 or 8 weeks in June and late May to plant things, and got
snowed
things
till
in
May.
Good,
Yeah.
got in good shape. And of course, July, we had 10 or 11 inches of rain in 10 days. So things are struggling, but if we get weather like this now and it dries out, things will do okay. I mean, our market, if you went down there, the market supply seems pretty ample. The one thing that right now is a bit late may be some ripe tomatoes.
Well, corn was late, wasn't it, this year?
Well, we had corn to open, and that was July 18th. But we have a couple members down along the Susquehanna River who can get it earlier. But that, right now, I would say the tomatoes are there.
Yeah.
But in my case, mine are a little late. I'm not picking any ripe tomatoes yet. I have
You know,
everything
the one
else.
good thing about this climate change, if there is a good thing about it, but the one thing about farming is that when I was a kid, you were shoveling snow by Halloween. Now we don't get snow till February. So the entire, in September and October, we're
Reversing
in the
that,
80s in some days.
You're readjusting the
Yeah,
season.
it's and now it snows in June,
Yeah,
but you don't get
yeah.
snow till February. So I think that everything is cyclical on the 30-year cycle.
Well,
but maybe this will help farming a little bit, being it's a later season.
And I think, aren't most farmers diversifying more now these days
Yeah.
than they used to?
And in our circumstances, the small vegetable farm is, I hate to say, going by the wayside, because there's still enough of us. But it's hard to make that living that you need today from a 40-acre vegetable farm, because that's a huge expense to produce that. So
Do you
the
still farm?
diversification. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're
And your main
producing.
crop is?
Well, I would say my main crop are sweet corn, tomatoes, potatoes,
The staples?
and but our variety, I have about 15 or 16 different things that I'll produce
Have you
during the year.
changed over the decades and added new crops while rotating, crop rotation into others?
Well,
No, the
not
same
really.
basic, no?
It's a pure vegetable farm. I mean, I haven't tried, I can't say other than, like, our family, we're farmers. The old dairy, a little orchard.
They usually are in this business. Yes.
Hucksters. My father peddled in Scranton for years,
And on the
and
truck,
we
yep.
belonged to the market.
Yeah.
And then the cows in the 60s sort of went by the wayside because we had a decade of dry weather. And it was hard to produce hay, so a lot of dairymen went out then.
It's the way it works.
But-
You don't work for IBM and say, I think I'll be a farmer. It's usually passed down from, this is
But
a
are the
generational.
youngsters picking up on it?
In the last couple of years, we have 3 new they're family members.
Yeah.
3 young gentlemen that are going to carry it on, so that's a good sign.
That's good.
Yeah, that is
And
good.
we went on.
Because Rusty makes a good point. You don't usually switch from another profession into farming. You got that's sort of an inbred kind
Oh,
of
you bet.
thing. And if the next generation's not interested, chances are you see homes on that.
That's right. That's a
property.
development.
Our market in the agricultural of fresh to the consumer is helpful to provide an incentive for some of these young men because they have an outlet for their product, and if they produce a good product, they can get a fair price, as opposed to becoming real big and venturing out to the wholesale market, which might be at the subject of Virginia crop, Ohio crop, and we fail one year and you invest so much and lose it and then try to gain it. So if you have that constant consumer-based place where the people can come and get fresh
You
produce.
just answered my next question. I was going to, I asked how the market benefited the consumer, but I was going to ask how it benefited the farmer. And obviously that having that market that you know is there, and then you develop the clientele.
Without a doubt, I can pick my load Tuesday, Thursday, mornings, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on the weekend, and know that what's in that truck or those trucks, I probably can sell a good portion of it directly to the person.
Yeah, what hits me though with regard to your market, especially in those 3 days, is we've always heard that the farmer's up with the sun and works the field all day long. I don't know how you have time to come to the market.
Well, with the
Pardon me.
with the new times, as we would call them, you adjust for that 6-month period where you just work. And it's up early and it's late on market nights. My wife doesn't plan on supper. She just plans on a time frame for me to eat something, because
things
it
you
could
don't
be
think of.
8 o'clock, or in a busy August, September, October, which are really busy, it could be 9 o'clock.
Sure.
But it happens. It just happens. It's something you do, and I've enjoyed it. It hasn't. You get tired, but in a good way.
Yeah. What would you say is generally, I don't know what your busiest day of those 3 would be, but what kind of turnout do you get at them? Have you ever done a head count?
No, we tried. Girls from Marywood, I should say students from Marywood, did a survey one year. I just forget numbers. Friday usually is our busiest. I would say a pretty good estimated guess is that it wouldn't be unusual, I don't think, for 2,000 to 3,000 people to go through the market
During
on a good day.
my news beat days, I covered the opening a couple times. Now, you always expect more on an opening day or a special day of some sort, and that estimate may be very, very conservative for an opening day, because I remember having a little tough time walking through the crowd sometimes.
Yeah, we have that open air concept. It's fresh from the farm. That's our philosophy. You'd be surprised how many people will come down. We have a good concession stand that provides a hamburger or a soup. How many people will come down and for lunch, and you'll see people seeing their neighbors. And I've had customers that go back to my father, that are still around, and they're there. And so many people from town, I think, venture those couple of blocks over for their hour lunch.
Well, I think it's great that it's always been the same area.
Yes.
And I didn't know, like Dave, about the circus, but I know that they just took the train trestle out a couple of years ago.
Right.
They used to bring the circus trains in on that trestle from the D&H at those times, so they just took that out because for the betterment of the river. But a very historic area right off of Providence Road for the longest time.
Right. And the fact that we've existed for 80 years gives us some pride in the fact that our philosophy, and you have a group of people, we have a board of directors that sort of decide policy, because if you have 28 or 30 members and try to get them all to agree,
well, there's 30 different.
It's 30 different viewpoints. So we have 7 directors that, we go with what our membership wants. It makes it easier. And we have had the typical business problems with when do we open, because some of our members can get stuff 2 weeks before I can.
Oh, okay,
And,
sure.
And the weather.
And the weather, and what will the hours be? For years, we didn't want to change from 3 o'clock, but we had to keep coming earlier and earlier. Our people were coming, and now it's backed up to noon, and we're not going to change that, I don't think. That seems to be the staple. But we have no bell to ring, no door to unlock. So when I back in at 10:30 to start to
You're
unload,
open. You're already
I'm
open. Absolutely.
And there'll be a lot of people there, and that doesn't seem to be a problem.
Now, when someone gets involved in the Scranton Co-op Farmers Market, when you have a vendor coming in from a farm, they make a commitment to be there all week, don't they,
Right.
those 3 days?
Well, in terms of the money that needs to be spent for our rent, yes, and they're committed to the 3 days. There's no fines or no, but if it doesn't work out, there's a year
A probation?
probation
Okay.
period before they can be voted in as a member to see if first it satisfies them, and second, can they last the July through November time period to provide a place for their produce and not an empty stall. We're proud that our 41
You want them
stalls
filled.
are full, and of those 41, there's only 2 that are non-members. We do allow a bakery and a winery because of the diversity. And you were speaking of diversity before. We have maple syrup, and it was all produce years ago. We have the raw milk,
Well, all
some
you gotta
cut
do-
flowers.
That's
and-
big though, maple syrup. Now they have their own websites and things devoted to, getting your own and tapping the trees at a certain time. You got to move where people are moving to. You got to be the Amazon
the-
of your
The
business.
Sugar Maple Farms, which is up near.
They bring in a band every day, and you're going to have a place to be, spend the whole day, and have your lunch. And
Well, we have our
that's
special events. We have, right now, the Scranton Public Library's down there a couple days a week. I don't really know what they're doing. They're advertising themselves. The Nurses Association comes in. We have a few strolling guitarists that
Oh, that's great.
we
Yeah,
allow
but
to
that's
sit
good,
in
yeah.
the midway that
That
are
is-
really just add
Promotion
some
brings more
ambiance.
promotion. I mean,
Yeah.
that brings more street traffic. You invite
Yeah,
them all
That's
in.
wonderful.
That's
That's
right.
a wonderful idea. I want to ask about one other thing, because when I retired and started to depend on Social Security for getting around, one of the things my wife and I found extremely valuable are the food vouchers that are now available, where we qualify for a couple of these vouchers. I think they're worth $5 each. And
Are
we
they
can
government,
take those.
state government, or
Yep,
state
well,
government?
through the federal,
Federal,
I
that's what I
believe.
thought.
Through the federal,
I
but
see.
then distributed by state.
I see.
Yeah.
And then through the local offices on aging. And you can take those to the market, and you can, there's certain products you cannot buy with them, but the regular produce products you can. How have they worked out for the consumer and for the farmer?
Very good. It's an excellent program. One of the programs that I think people should know about, that their tax dollars
I
are
think
working.
a lot of people don't know about
Really?
it.
I didn't either. Does everyone normally take those at the market?
Right, and a lot of those farm stands,
They
it's not
take
just
them?
our market.
How about that? That's
They're
interesting.
distributed in 4-section checks.
Yeah,
worth
the Office of
$20.
Aging distributes them through your local. There'll be a whole setup of schedules, and if you miss the senior center in your area when they're giving them out, you can actually go to another senior citizen
I
center
see.
and get them
I see.
when they're being.
Yeah.
But there is a group that goes out, and you must be there when that group is there,
see.
because you've got to sign up for them. You have to vouch for your income
Right.
and such.
Is it based on income? Do you
It's
get
based on
it's
income.
income.
Right.
The
Yeah,
original-
based on a two-person household, I think is very generous.
I see.
And
The
really helps out.
the WIC program was Women, Infants, and Children
Okay.
initially, and it was provided for young mothers and their children. And they had the checks. They originally started out as $2 denominations. They weren't used too efficiently. We had young girls come in with their mothers. The whole idea was to give these people a chance to get fresh
Right.
food. Then it transitioned to not only the young girls, or families could get them, but the seniors. And I believe the last statistic the younger, there were 65% of those check used, and the seniors were using over 90%.
Oh, yeah, undoubtedly. If
And-
you don't know about it, check with your local
bet.
senior citizens office in your county, your local senior citizen center, and you can qualify for them. And they're a great advantage. It's not like you get $100, but
No, it's $20.
and you don't get
Every little
change.
bit
And,
you know,
and a
you-
family,
you don't get
like if
change.
there's two in a family, they each can get it. And the seniors use them very efficiently. They'll come to, like if you have a variety where they can get their $5 worth. Early in the season now, without tomatoes and a lot of corn, we try to let the person know that, okay, I might not have enough to get your $5 effectively. I don't want to give you 3 heads of cabbage
right.
when you need one. So I might send them to one of our fruit vendors where there's peaches and cherries and something. And that's not a problem because through the course of the year, we all seem to get an equal share
Sure.
of them.
Good thing about a co-op.
Yep.
yeah,
Send to your neighbor.
it's pretty much a family. We argue and fight, but at the same time, for 80 years we've gotten along. So,
Clay, we're just about out of time, so if you'd remind the viewers about the hours and times of the Scranton Cooperative Farmers Market
okay.
and the location, of course.
Scranton Cooperative Market, we're located off Albright Avenue near Scranton Memorial Stadium. Turn in on Albright right there by the Glider Diner. Go in 2 blocks and take a right. 1 block and you're there. Monday, Wednesday, Friday from noon till 6. In season right now, corn, tomatoes, broccoli, cauliflower. When fall comes, it'll be cabbage and potatoes, more broccoli, more cauliflower, pumpkins for the kids. Don't miss our Halloween parade we have every year. And then November, we'll fill up the cellar with potatoes and cabbage and get you ready for the holidays.
There you
And
go.
winter squash.
Thanks, Clay.
Clay, and
Thank
remember,
you very much for
do
having
yourself
me.
a favor. If you can't get to the Scranton market, check your area for a farmer's market because, again, it helps the consumer and it helps the farmer. So it's really a win-win situation. So, Clay, thanks again for being with us. Rusty, thank you.
See you next week, Dave.
Mark McGlory,
Thanks,
thanks for keeping us in focus. I'm David DeCosmo for ECTV Live. Until we see you again next week, here's hoping all your news is good.